Well, it is time now for business news, and for that we're joined by Keiko on set. We're going to start, in fact, looking at that presidential runoff in Peru, where Keiko Fujimori is leading by that narrow margin. This vote, Keiko, polarised really the campaign about the economic model in the country.
That's right, the free market, the price free market economic model of Peru. Now, it's been very much a campaign over the left versus the right, or the poor versus the rich. Now, Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of jailed former strongman Alberto Fujimori, has vowed to uphold Peru's free market economic model. Her rival Pedro Castillo wants to reform the constitution to allow for state intervention in key sectors. Lauren Bestecher takes a look.
Long hailed as a continental success story, Peru is now facing its biggest economic challenge in decades. The country's neoliberal model, encouraging investment and private sector growth, saw poverty drop by nearly half since the 1990s. But a series of corruption scandals and growing wealth inequalities slowly eroded faith in the political class and left the country unable to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic.
The pandemic has hit Peru hard. 3 million Peruvians have become poor, and the fight against poverty in Peru has been set back by 10 years.
In 2020, Peru's GDP growth declined by 11%, while the national poverty rate rose to 27%. Various aid and stimulus programs launched by the government also saw public deficit grow from 1.6% to nearly 9%, as the country recorded the worst COVID-19 fatality rate in the world. Economic issues took on central stage during the presidential campaign, as two candidates offered radically opposed visions to tackle the crisis. The daughter of former President Alberto Fujimori, Keiko Fujimori supports a continuation of Peru's current neoliberal model, seeking to cut taxes and boost private sector investment in order to generate jobs and economic growth. Meanwhile, Pedro Castillo, a former schoolteacher hailing from a modest background, has pledged to nationalize key industries, raise taxes, and redistribute wealth, as he campaigned on the slogan, "No more poor people in a rich country."
Well, turning to Japan now, where the world's largest car maker, Toyota, has been dealing with issues in its corporate culture.
Well, Toyota has reached a settlement with the family of an engineer who committed suicide back in 2017. Now, Toyota initially denied that his death was work-related based on its own internal investigation. But in 2019, a local labor authority ruled that the 28-year-old man took his own life as a result of incessant power harassment at work. It has been revealed that since the ruling, the CEO of Toyota apologized twice to the family personally and pledged to work towards preventing similar incidents in the future. On Monday, the company issued a statement outlining its new measures, including better communications and re-education of managers.
Moving on, a new Chinese trade data shows both exports and imports jumping in May, imports growing at the fastest pace in more than a decade, Yuka.
Well, with economies reopening gradually around the world, demand is growing further. China's exports rose almost 28% in May from a year earlier, though that was still less than expected and slower than in April. Meanwhile, imports increased more than 51%, the fastest pace since January of 2011. Higher commodity prices were the main driver.
Well, meanwhile, on the other side of things, factory orders in Germany dropped unexpectedly in April.
That's right. Well, new data out this Monday showed orders for industrial goods fell by 0.2% after a near 4% increase in March. The fresh figures suggest that despite the gradual reopening of businesses across the continent, manufacturers in Europe's largest economy are still feeling the effects of earlier lockdowns imposed by the pandemic. Now, with that, let's have a look at the day's trading action, and a mixed picture at the open here in Europe, with Paris dropping slightly below the flight line there, and Frankfurt also dropping after that disappointing trade data. Asian shares were mixed as well this Monday, with Hong Kong dipping 0.5%, as you can see there.
France UK has kept its position as the #1 investment destination in Europe for foreign businesses.
Now, that's according to a new survey, a new report published by consultancy firm EY. For a second year running, France attracted more foreign investments than any other European nations, with 985 new projects launched in 2020, though that was down 18% compared to the previous year because of the pandemic. Now, 2019 was a record year for France in terms of foreign investment. Last year, Germany saw investments, though, dip, while the UK followed France as the number two destination.
Interesting statistics, Hugo Roy. Thanks a lot for that business update.